Hey guys, thanks for coming back and hanging out with me again. This is step three or part three of the vodcast on Conjurer of Death. If you've seen the other parts, this is the second time that I'm doing this image. Um, had it all set to go, thought it was going to be great and wonderful, and ordered proofs from the print on demand company, and it just did not look good. It was just horrible. Well, I guess not that horrible. I do have the poster on the wall over there, but you probably can't see it. Um, but it wasn't what I wanted to offer to, my customers, my clients. So I'm completely redoing it. This is step three. I am going to play around a little bit before I do color. And I happen to think to myself, if I go over into the design section of PhotoDirector360, I can actually play around with this image in the adjustment, and they have a little bit different adjustment. So we actually, wait a minute, I did that way too fast. So in design, if we go over on the left-hand side, there's the little, I don't know what you call these, equalizers, adjusters. So we go to that and we go to adjust layer. You can also invert the image colors here, which is, not really all that cool. And then we'll just click back out of that. But we're going to go to adjust layer, and it's actually going to add a layer to the image so that we can do the adjustment. And I can do color and stuff in here, um, but that's not what I'm after. White balance, color, all that stuff is not what I'm after. What I'm after is this luminance, detail, texture, color and detail, and sharpness in here works differently than in the guided. So I'm going to zoom up on our guy here and see what happens when we use the sharpness in here. And it works slightly different. See how wiry he gets? Like, I don't think sharpness is what I need. I think I've got enough sharpness in there from what we did before. But if I do luminescence, if you look, all this stuff starts to get blurry. Or it's not luminescence, it's luminance. Um, and you don't need much, so I'm going to set it to 25 because that triggers the detail and the texture. So the detail, I can make it really fuzzy. I can bring it up and sharpen it to a certain extent, but it doesn't look like stringy like what I had with the sharpness in that. And then I can bring in texture as well, which in this particular part of the picture, you're not going to see the texture effect. But I don't want him to be that wiry. So I'm going to bring the detail back down so that we kind of have just a little bit of, ethereal magic in his arms instead of that all that wiry being so pronounced. And we'll see what it did on the rocks here as well. It did kind of bring a little bit of a softness to these rocks, which was another thing. I mean, they're still very, you know, just very geometric, I guess, in shape and form. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the cloudy area down here. And now when I mess with the texture, see if that does anything. It does a little bit, but you really have to kind of get the detail going in order to see what that does. So it doesn't really do much of anything out there. So we're going to go back here and make sure we've got our detail where we want it in terms of our guy up here. And I think maybe about 25 there. And now we can actually play with the sharpness and see if it makes any difference to what we're doing. And we can play with the luminance. The blurrier we make it, the more detail we have to bring in. And it's all a game. It's see what this does, see what that does, see what happens when you bring this up and when you bring that in and when you do this and when you do that. So the texture's not doing a lot, but the detail will do a lot. And I don't really want it to be hyper detailed. I want it to be a little mysterious, a little off. Um, just because I don't want all this wiriness to be wiry. Um, so I'm happy with that as far as that goes. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And we are back in design mode where we could potentially make this a completely different setup. But as you can see, we just kind of blurred it a little bit, made it a little softer, I guess you could say. Just took a little bit of the detail out of it, which helps. And so we're going to jump back over to guided, and we're going to go into the color adjustments because we already handled sharpness, clarity, all those kinds of things. So we're going to go into HSL and color, and we're going to start in hue. And I'm going to zoom up some, but not a whole lot. Yeah, that's probably too much on its own. So we'll go into the custom and hit 75 because I kind of want to see what's going on in the central part of the picture because I want to make sure that I'm not like blowing out the color on the that we changed on the cloaks and stuff. And red, I don't think is going to do a whole lot for us because there's not a whole lot of red in here. Orange, that gets pretty yellowy, and that brings in more red. If I want to get redder, which I'm not convinced I want to do, yellow brings in a little more green, a little more orange. And I reset these to 0 because I don't want to get something that I'm happy with and then I do a different adjustment and it just kind of makes everything off and I can't figure out where it's off. So if we take the blue more into the purple, we're getting purple into the cloaks. We don't really want that, or I don't really want that. I don't want to change a bunch with those cloaks. Now that's going to take them into the purple. There's stuff we can do that will, in the saturation and the lightness, that we can monkey with a little bit more. I want to zoom out and see what this purple's doing to the rest of the picture. Because I like what it did to the cloaks. Kind of dulled them, brought a little sheen to them. I made them a little bit lighter. Kind of like that. I don't think we need aqua. What about magenta? Magenta's not really doing anything. Now we can come back to the orange, where we got the red in the background, or the greenish color. Kind of like the red. I don't want to go too crazy with it because we haven't done saturation yet either. Let's see what that does with if we bring in actual red. I don't think we need actual red in there. So we're going to move on to saturation. And because we did the orange, I want to see what we get out of desaturating or oversaturating the orange. And here again, I may decide to split this picture in two. Um, because if I'm not happy with what I get to turn out here, um, I'm going to go back to the drawing board and split it in two or maybe three layers and see what happens. So I'm just running through the different colors. I know my big fat head is down here in the corner, and hopefully you guys can see all these colors that I'm playing with. See, I'm not getting a whole lot of anything out of the saturation of the purple. Um, Now maybe if we do the magenta is bringing in kind of a cool look over here and right here. But I also want to zoom up and see what those look like. Which is just kind of cool. Just a little added blurb of color in there without affecting too much else. And then we can go over to lightness. And darken the reds, lighten the reds. Getting a little more glow in the background there. I think the orange is probably going to be more of what we're dealing with. Lighten that up just a little bit, see what the yellow does. See, now the yellow brings us a bunch of lightness in the middle down there. Green's not doing a whole lot for us. A little bit here and there. Aqua. Oh, I kind of like the aqua being down a little bit. And we'll play with the blue. And again with the purple. You can really see what it's doing to the cape and that when you lighten up the purple. Not really. Kind of like what the cape and the looks like right now. You may want to soften them up a little bit, but see what that magenta does. It's just kind of over in that one area. I like that. Let's go back into the hue and see if we get much of anything. Now that darkens that up. I really want it much darker. Kind of had the blue too dark to begin with. So again, we're just playing. And I'm deciding on what I like and what I don't like. And I kind of like that. Um, but I almost kind of don't like it. And I'm certain we can do some more effects and stuff like that, but I'm gonna have to sit with this picture for a minute and decide whether I want to attempt to do this as two layers, like I've done in the past, to affect the color differently in the two sides. And I don't really have a good spot to delineate it. I mean, I can kind of come through here, but then we're going to be affecting this side differently than we would affect this side. And the more that I think about it, the more I think that's the way to go. So that's what we're going to do in the next video, guys, is we're going to split this sucker up. Matter of fact, I'm going to take the time to split it first. And then when we come back, um, well, maybe not. I'll see if the magic will work its magic or not. But on the next video, guys, we're gonna monkey more with the other stuff. So I'm not gonna save this where I am. I'm gonna go back to step two. So anything we played around with in the color here will be gone. Actually, um, that's probably the best thing right now. So we will catch you on the next one. Remember, guys, let the chaos out.